Jason sipped his coffee slowly. It was good, surprisingly good, but he wasn't tasting it. His ears were burning, replaying Ren's words like a siren in the dead of night. That guy in the suit? He smells rich, but acts lost. His throat tightened. He understood the rhythm of exhaustion all too well, having lived it for far too long. Those words echoed in his head, reminding him of the world he was hiding from and the stakes of his charade. Watching, listening for any sign of weakness, watching for any crack in Ren's composure. But Ren, she was building something else. A resistance, born out of necessity and fueled by quiet strength. But she was a fortress of resilience, even in the face of his unspoken presence. He hadn't realized how deeply her words had affected him until now, how they pierced the layers of detachment he'd built around himself. He saw the foundation of something powerful, something that threatened the very foundations of the system he'd dedicated his life to. She was building a movement, a quiet revolution powered by the quietest voices, the ones often overlooked and underestimated. And he knew that language because his father had spent millions trying to shut down people just like her. The tip jar, always lighter than it should have been. The backroom schedule that changed with no notice, always hitting Ren the hardest. And in that moment, he realized that the real battle wasn't in boardrooms or courtrooms. It was in the hearts and minds of people like Ren. The sight of Ren, the sound of her voice, the spirit of resilience she embodied, it all stirred something within him, a longing for a different path, a different life. Perhaps she sensed it, perhaps she didn't care. Either way, it didn't matter. What mattered was the impact she had on him. She'd become a catalyst for change, a force that was reshaping his perspective, forcing him to confront the consequences of his choices. Jason noticed Ren watching everything, lips tight, eyes sharper than ever. She was assessing, strategizing. Hey, I don't know who you are, really. She didn't know how right she was. He didn't correct her. He couldn't break character. But inside, a war raged between loyalty to his family's legacy and the burgeoning sense of justice he felt for Ren and everyone like her. But you don't belong here. Not because of the suit, but because something's off. Just don't get caught in the crossfire. Proof that the cafe was one of dozens in a Mercer Shadow franchise used to test labor suppression methods, used to quietly retaliate against workers who spoke up. Brent's not just a manager. He's a company fixer. Quiet and dirty. It was a pull towards the light, a magnet of hope in the darkness he'd grown so accustomed to. And the whispered conversations between Ren and her co-workers, rents due. Again, Brent cut my hours. People who ask too many questions don't last long here. Said we're over budget. I swear, someone's messing with the app. Gavin Sloan, Mercer's internal counsel. And the last person who had warned Jason. If you walk away, stay away. The question wasn't what he'd done, but why. Was this part of the plan or a reckless act of cruelty? Or the company will make you disappear, one way or another. She moved with a mechanical precision, clocking in and donning her apron like a soldier putting on armor for battle. There was no spark in her movements, no joy in her service. He had been so focused on his own machinations, on his secret mission, that he'd failed to recognize the immediate danger looming over Ren. He'd failed to see the signs of fatigue etched on her face, the tremors in her hands, the dimming light in her eyes. Had Brent threatened her? Intimidated her? Isolated her? The questions swirled in his mind, unanswered, adding to the torment of his inaction. This was a fight worth having, a cause worth championing. It was about proving that even in the darkest corners of the city, hope could bloom and thrive. He owed it to Ren, to himself, to everyone whose voices had been silenced by the weight of Mercer's wealth and influence. The battle lines were drawn, and he was ready to join the fray. During the evening rush, as customers crowded the cafe, Jason noticed Ren faltering. Her hands trembled slightly, her eyes glazed with fatigue. In that moment, he realized Brent's true objective. He hadn't just threatened Ren. He'd pushed her to the edge of exhaustion, hoping she'd make a mistake, hoping to trap her in an error. I logged 8 hours. Only 6 got recorded. Each word resonated with a hollow truth that mirrored his own experiences in the corporate labyrinth. Every cough, every tired sigh, every fleeting smile etched with sadness became a fresh wound on his soul. He had failed her, failed to protect her, failed to guide her, failed to shield her from the storm he knew would come. He glanced back. She was already halfway across the cafe, juggling cups, cleaning counters, keeping everything moving with a rhythm that spoke of exhaustion wrapped in grace. Jason's pulse kicked. He hadn't been followed in months. He'd thought the past was done with him. But the past had other plans. It was time to act, to reclaim the agency he'd surrendered, to protect the one person who'd inadvertently become his anchor to humanity. Ren didn't show up to her shift the next morning. No call, no message, no warning. Jason stayed quiet. For now, he wasn't ready to speak. He was listening. He had waited too long, played too quietly. Now someone else was paying the price. And this time, he wasn't going to be silent. With each step he took, a new determination filled him. He wouldn't just expose Mercer's secrets, he'd use their tactics against them. Jason looked up, expecting the usual morning rush of customers. But his gaze fell on a woman standing in the doorway, her shoulders slumped, her eyes downcast. It was Ren. Her usual vibrancy was replaced with a defeated slump. Her eyes, once bright with spirit, were now clouded with despair. Through the foggy glass, he saw Ren and two co-workers around a notebook, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of a single lamp. Over the next few days, he noticed everything. The way the manager, Brent, routinely clocked people out early but still made them mop floors. Jason started collecting receipts. Quietly. Photos. Notes. Logs. He was building a case from the inside. Quietly. Methodically. One night after closing, Jason lingered outside, pretending to tie his shoes. Charts. Names. Times. Notes. They weren't just complaining. They were documenting. And in that moment, Jason saw more than just numbers and names. He watched as Ren spoke, her voice low but steady, organizing, strategizing, mobilizing. That night, Jason couldn't sleep. For the first time in a long time, he felt a surge of emotions, a tumult of feelings he'd buried under layers of strategy and steel resolve. He didn't know if she knew who he was, if she suspected his true identity. The game was already shifting. He hadn't noticed Brent's subtle scrutiny until one morning a Mercer Holdings black SUV pulled up across the street. The passenger window rolled down. Inside, he saw a man in a charcoal suit. Jason didn't move, didn't flinch, but he knew what that visit meant. They'd found him, and something big was coming. Back in the cafe, Brent suddenly started enforcing new rules. No phones behind the counter, no chatting with customers, no off-the-books shifts. She pulled him aside. Jason stared at her. He managed a weak smile. Maybe I don't belong, but maybe that's the reason I'm here. Ren blinked, then walked away. That night, Jason made a choice. He unlocked a file on his laptop, a sealed legal document. He could take it public, but it wouldn't mean anything unless Ren was the voice behind it. She wasn't just the heart of that cafe. She was its power. He just had to help her see that. But as he prepared to show her the truth, something happened. And when Jason asked Brent where she was, Brent smirked. Jason's blood turned cold. The bell above the cafe door chimed, announcing a new arrival. His heart clenched. She looked smaller somehow, more vulnerable. And in that instant, he knew that Brent had made his move. Before he could dwell on the question further, Ren was moving past him, her steps heavy with fatigue. Jason watched her, his gaze unwavering. As the day wore on, he tried to piece together Brent's actions, to decipher the strategy behind Ren's sudden dejection. Then came the final blow, a cruel twist of fate that left Jason reeling. Jason felt a surge of anger mixed with shame. As he watched Ren struggle to keep up with the orders, his resolve hardened. He wouldn't stand by and watch any longer. He stepped out from behind the counter, his movements deliberate, his gaze fixed on Ren. Jason had always thrived on strategy, on planning several moves ahead. But in this case, strategy wouldn't suffice. This wasn't about exposing Mercer anymore. It was about dismantling it from the inside, about toppling a giant that had seemed invincible. Jason straightened his shoulders, readying himself for the fight ahead. This was his moment. To be continued in Part 3.